All right, guys. We're gonna talk about 1 month into learning Arabic through basically immersion, right? Um, Now Arabic is gonna be my like fourth language, and I basically self-taught myself basically French and Japanese like close to native level. So yeah, like most people like when they do AJATT or like Refold, like they only stick with Japanese. For me, like um, I've gone into French and also master Japanese too. Now, like when it comes to, my fluency in French and Japanese, like I would say that like, my conversational spoken fluency is very close to native level. It's not quite native just because like I need more practice. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go to Japan this summer, right? So like I'll be living in Japan for like maybe like I'll be in Japan for like 2 months, right? This summer. So like, I'll be able to really practice my Japanese. Um, but my command of Japanese is really high. I not only do I mastered the spoken language, I've also mastered the written language. So like, for example, I got books here. You know what I mean? If you guys don't know, I have Zaregoto. So I bought this light novel. Like I have a bunch of light novels here. I read like Mushoku Tensei. I read you know, Classroom of the Elite, and all these other ones. But like I achieved like pinnacle levels of like Japanese literacy, right? Because I finished a light novel called The 12 Kingdoms, right? And this is like the hardest light novel like ever in Japanese. Like I would say like this light novel series, the 12 Kingdoms, is like considered like the hardest, and it's just because it uses the same type of language that's found in Legend of the Galactic Heroes. So if you guys haven't watched that anime, like that anime is like the hardest anime I've watched. You know, it's like that level of anime is like, but like imagine like on a novel format. So this is like basically like the hardest light novel, that I've come across. Because a lot of the vocabulary that's used in Legend of Galactic Heroes is also used in here, like all the archaic, rare terms. So for me, like I've reached like native level pretty much like literacy and like spoken fluency. So and I just did this through AJAT, through just immersion, right? And then with French, it's like I'm not native level with literacy. Like for me, I don't know how to read books in French just because like I never really learned how to read with literacy. But I am like pretty much like almost approaching like native level when it comes to like speaking French, right? And what I mean by native level, I mean like when you speak, like you're undeniable, like you sound like a native. Like perfect accent, perfect phrasing, perfect basically type of speech. That's what I mean by native level. What I mean by native level is not necessarily about like vocabulary size, because like a 10-year-old is native level, but like speaks perfect in their language, but they don't necessarily have like as much of a vocabulary as much of like a professor. You know what I mean? So like native level is basically measured by not how much words you know, but how well you know the words you know, right? There's a difference, right? So yeah, and right now I'm gonna be learning Arabic, and yeah, guys, it's been 1 month, you know, and I'm gonna learn, and there's a reason why I've been able to reach like pretty much like a perfect accent in Japanese and French, and it mainly had to do with me like immersing myself through listening only. So I'm gonna use what I learned with French and Japanese and use it to apply Arabic to learn Arabic like crazy fast, right? I'm gonna give you guys a blueprint. But basically, what I'm gonna do is like, I'm gonna do only listening. Now, a lot of you guys, especially if you guys are learning Japanese, right? You're gonna be like, there's just no way you can learn a language through only listening. Like, how is that even possible? And the reason why I can debunk this is because I only learned listening through French. So my French fluency, all the words I know, all the grammar I know that I've acquired, has been only done through listening immersion in French. So that's how I know that no, you can actually learn a language really fast with only listening, because I did it with French. Now, the reason why it takes a long time in Japanese is not because listening only is inherently flawed as a method. It's just because Japanese is just a hard language. Like whether you read a lot or listen, like Japanese is gonna take a long time. You know what I mean? Especially if you're doing like the way most people are doing it, which is basically like diverging the domains, But the reason why I learned French so fast, and I can actually calculate, I think roughly it took me like 600 hours of immersion from French to like reach like really good core fluency. And then like it took me like another like probably 400 hours to reach like, like pretty much like almost native level. Like in terms of like subtle grammar nuances, like, making sure that like, you know the difference between like very subtle things. That took an extra. So for me, like I have probably a total of like 1,000 hours. I don't know how much hours I really have in French, but I would say that I have a total of 1,000 hours in French in terms of immersion. So, you know, and I went to France last summer, and you know, I was able to speak like basically perfectly. Like, you know what I mean? It was just like crazy. I mean, I did make some mistakes in French though. You know what I mean? But that was just because it was like my first time like speaking like French for like only, because like, you know, I was like, when I was in France, bro, like I was talking like only in French. You know what I mean? Because like there was no one that spoke English around me. I mean, there was, but like we just decided to speak in French because it was easier. And I entered into a mode in France where like it was easier for me to speak French than it was to speak English. Like when I was trying to speak English, it just sounded weird, right? So I was completely like in a French environment and completely thinking in French. So like to arrive at that level, like you would need to like you know, but the reason why I was able to arrive at this level is because like, you know, I did only listening, and I didn't really read in French. So I'm gonna apply the same thing with Arabic, where like I'm only gonna listen to Arabic, right? And now if you guys don't know, like Arabic, there's a huge I think it's called diglossa. It's where like the written language and the spoken language are significantly different. They're like a different language. So like, for example, you have the Arabic dialects that people speak every day, the colloquial Arabic, and then you have the written Arabic, which is like MSA or Fusha, which is basically the Arabic they write, you know, in books or like in formal news, right? But right now I'm gonna be learning the dialect, right, of Arabic, because like I said, the dialect is the foundation of language, period, right? So that's why for me, I'm targeting Masri, which is basically Egyptian Arabic. And the reason why is because it's probably gonna be the easiest Arabic to learn, the Arabic dialect to learn, just because, you know, it has the most amount of content, right? And I base my decision based on that. It's the most widely spoken, the most understood, and also, you know, the easiest to find in terms of content. Like for me, like if I wanted to learn like the Moroccan dialect, like, you know, I was thinking of like learning eventually, but like it would be kind of hard just to find enough content for the Moroccan dialect, because it's like, you know, like the Egyptian TV shows have like popped off, right? And they have like a significant amount of hours that can, you know, basically immerse in, right, to basically reach like native level, right? But like, you know, it's hard for other dialects. So that's why like for me, I base my, you know, decision based off like how many people understand it and how many people speak it, right? So a lot of people speak the Egyptian dialect. So that's why like I'm gonna be learning that version of Arabic. But I'm gonna do the same thing that I did with French, where like, you know, I basically only immerse in like slice of life content. Because with French, I only immerse in like French YouTube, right? Which is basically only colloquial speech, like live streams, casual speech, like no formal anything, just pure casual slang banter, right? That type of content. But I'm gonna do with Arabic by watching like you know, TV shows. So that's why that's how I'm gonna learn Arabic, the same way I learn French. And for you guys, I think that learning through listening only is like, you know, something you can't do. Well, you know, I prove it to you guys. I did it with French, so I know it's true, guys. I mean, so with Japanese, you know, the first 6 months of my Japanese, I didn't do any reading because I couldn't read. I didn't actually learn kana until 6 months after AJATT. Like when I was doing AJATT or like immersion for like 6 months, I literally like couldn't even read kana. So then I was like, dude, what is this? What is like? I was like, oh my god, this is so dumb. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm like 6 months in, I don't even know kana. I should have actually continued, but you know, eventually, like, you know, I learned like the entire crazy language of Japanese, because it's like, for me, the reason why it took so long for me to learn Japanese compared to French, because for me for Japanese, I clocked in roughly like 5,000 hours of immersion total active. Right, and I have the stats, you know, according to like my anime list or like my analyst, there's like, it tracks on how many animes I've watched, and just purely from anime alone, I watched like 3,400 hours of anime, right? So that's 3,400 hours of listening to Japanese that I have, and then I have like a bunch of other light novels I've read, mangas I've read, tons of it, right? So like I'm pretty much like, you know, an extreme like otaku at that point, you know what I mean? So like I have like roughly 5,000 hours with Japanese. And that's like from me going hardcore for like 2.5 years, 3 years, like 3 years, bro, like hardcore, you know what I mean? But the reason why it took so long is because I immersed in every domain of Japanese. So I basically immersed in literary Japanese, I immersed in poetic Japanese, I immersed in fantasy, isekai Japanese, I immersed in Attack on Titan, military Japanese, I immersed in political Japanese, like, you know, basically like what's in Attack on Titan, or like, you know, in Ginga Eiyu Densetsu. I immersed in slice of life Japanese, which now has a bunch of school vocabulary. Romance vocabulary. So you get the point, right? Anime has such diverse lexicon when it comes to like even light novels. Like light novels and anime, the total amount of vocabulary that's in there to understand it, like to really master it and understand it like without a dictionary and to understand all the words in there is literally like 30,000 words, guys. 30,000 words you have to know to understand all of anime. Now compare that with French YouTube, which is what I immersed in to learn French really fast. You would only need to know like maybe 5,000 words, like core words, and then maybe like 10,000 in total to fully master it. But that's like way lower than the Japanese amount you would need to know like to understand every domain of Japanese. So Japanese is not only significantly harder, but the reason why it took so long was because I was immersing in every domain. And that's the mistake I don't want to make with Arabic. So that's why I'm not targeting Fusha for now, because it's like, for me to learn the language the fastest, you have to have a concentrated domain, okay? I'm learning the mistakes I made with Japanese and why I was able to learn it so fast with French, and applying it to Arabic, right? So, that's why like if you actually only immerse in slice of life anime or slice of life Japanese dramas or like YouTube videos, you could actually learn Japanese really fast with only listening. Because what you guys have to keep in mind is that there's a limited amount of lexicon when it comes to slice of life colloquial Japanese. Like there's only 5,000 words you need to really know to actually speak at a native level. Like you don't even know 10,000, you just need to know 5,000 words, guys. And and you guys may be like, just no way, 5,000 words. Yes, because if you watch like Japanese dramas, like I've actually watched some of these like Japanese dramas, like slice of life dramas, right? Bro, they barely use any vocabulary, bro, but they're speaking Japanese. Everyday Japanese, like everyday Japanese is like so easy. You know what I mean? They only use 5,000 words. Compare that to anime, which uses 30,000 words across all domains, right? Because you have to keep in mind that anime introduces literary words, right, from light novels, and like higher level, not all anime are like this, but there's the difficulty of anime changes a lot, right? And that's why you have to know a lot of words to understand all anime. But if you just want to target slice life anime, like slice life anime is a little bit higher. Like you would have to know like 8,000 words, just because like anime in general is just harder in general. So like because they just like to like say these unnecessary like words. You know what I mean? That kind of make the even slice of life anime like more complex than what it should be compared to like Japanese dramas. But like if you just stick to Japanese dramas, bro, like you would only need to know like 5,000 words, right? And it seems like Egyptian Arabic is also the same way. So like when I'm doing my Arabic, right? Egyptian Arabic only has a lexicon of 3,000 words, guys. Like 3,000 core words. Like for the core vocabulary, you'd only need to know like 3,000 words to understand like 95, like almost like 98% of Egyptian Arabic. That's 3,000 words, guys. I need to know just to understand 98% of like Egyptian Arabic shows. Now the extra remaining is like kind of niche stuff. But even within that niche, it's like smaller than Japanese. It's like only like 10,000 total. You know what I mean? But you don't need to know like 3,000 words to really get fluent in Egyptian Arabic, because they recycle the same words over and over again, right? It's actually more condensed than Japanese and French, just because like the written language is not merged with the spoken language like it is with Japanese and French. So for me, I actually don't have to learn as much words in Egyptian Arabic, because all the vocabulary in Egyptian Arabic shows are only colloquial. There's no MSA introduced, right? So when I pick shows that are no MSA, then the formal words won't leak in, which makes it really good and possible to learn really fast only with listening. So people are kind of like, how can you learn only through listening? Well, it's like, this is how you do it, bro. You pick a content that's only colloquial, that's only slice of life, right? And there's tons of them in Egyptian Arabic. There's actually more slice of life Egyptian shows than there are like, harder shows. Like for me, it's actually hard to find MSA shows, like harder Egyptian Arabic shows. So for me, it's actually more convenient. Like it's just easier just to learn the colloquial, right, with Egyptian Arabic, because it's just more shows that are more like family oriented, right? So like, that's why like, it's going to be really, I'm going to be able to learn it like pretty fast, just with listening. That's what like, I don't need to read, you know what I mean? Like I actually still haven't learned the Arabic script. I actually started to learn the script, but then I was like, such a pain. So I just kind of stopped learning the script for Arabic. So I'm not gonna learn the script for Arabic. And I'm just gonna like basically get fluent by like only with my ears, right? And that's the way it should be, right? That's what I should have done with Japanese. Like I was 6 months in, you know, honestly, like I should have just like stopped. I should have just not learned how to read first, and then like became fluent with only slice of life, and then like I've learned how to read later, right? But anyway, I mean, I don't regret what I did with Japanese because I was gonna learn the literary language anyway, so I was gonna learn how to read anyway. But it kind of explains why like French took so French when I did only listening with French, like I learned so fast, and why it took so long with Japanese, right? Reason one with Japanese was I diversified my content too much, so I basically immersed in light novels, all genres of anime. Not a good idea. You got to learn like 30,000 words, you know. And then the other one was yeah, like, you know, it was unnecessary for me to like learn literacy, at least like for fluency. So, but now when I go to Egyptian Arabic, I'm not doing any literacy, no reading, only listening, but only listening to slice of life content, where the domain and the amount of words used is like so limited, you only need to know like 3,000 words. So you see how easy this is, right? Because it's like, if those 3,000 words keep repeating over and over and over and over and over again, eventually you just know all the words through immersion only. Like you don't need to like Anki anything. So if you guys want to know, like I did do Anki though, like, and I do recommend actually do a little bit of Anki in the beginning for the most common words. So I basically have a list of the most common 500 words of Egyptian Arabic. And what I did was I basically ChatGPT'd. I basically told ChatGPT, okay, find like list me the most common 500 like or like, you know, most common Egyptian Arabic words found in like slice of life dramas. So I just had ChatGPT just basically give me a list of the most common words in Arabic, and then I basically looked up the words in ChatGPT definitions. So I took the definitions from ChatGPT also, and I told it to explain it to me in English. Like give me an English explanation of this word, you know, because not a bilingual definition, but just an explanation of the word in English. Basically, like if you're opening a dictionary and it basically explains the word. So that's what I'm doing with, and you know, I basically made some cards with it. I probably made like 300 cards. And what I would do basically is I would basically download the PDF file on Forvo. So if you actually if you go to Forvo, which is basically a site that can basically take in the audio, right? And what you can do with this, bro, is like when you go on Anki, you can actually input the audio file of the word pronunciation onto the front of the card in Anki. So that's what I'm doing. So when I do my Anki, I basically have like the front of the card be the audio with the transliteration, and the transliteration is basically like it's English script. It basically is using Latin letters, but it kind of like it's like Romaji in Japanese. You know what I mean? It's like you don't write with kana, but you write with like the English kind of like letters, like, and basically it's like telling you the pronunciation of the word. So that's what I have in the front of the card, the audio with that transliteration. The back of the card is a definition. And I made 300, I probably know like roughly like 500 of the most common words right now. But like, you know, I have 300 probably words of Anki that I have in Arabic. And you know, the reason why like this really helped in the beginning was because even just through immersion, so like I was actually surprised because like even just through immersion alone, like with my first week of immersion, right? Like I was actually able to pick up like a lot of like common words in Egyptian Arabic without me ever like doing Anki. Like I was able to pick up like, you know, quais or like you know, like enti, like enta, and like ana, like the basic words. I was able to pick those up without any Anki, bro. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even have to Anki those words. I just knew them. You know what I mean? Like there's those words like enta fen, like fein, you know. I picked up those words. I picked up, you know, so like there's like small things like I was able to pick up. You know, like I was able to pick up sabal al-ghil, you know, sabal al-ghil, and they respond back with sabal al-nur, right? So like, which basically means light, like an-nur, nur just means light, right? I mean, I already knew that before Arabic, but like, because of Islam, right? But like, thing is, guys, like, so that's the thing, you know, but memorizing the most common 300 words with audio cards, like audio and vocab cards, by the way, like they're not sentence cards, they're vocab cards. that I put the fill. Basically on Forvo, it's just pronunciations of individual words. So basically on my list that I have on ChatGPT, I just basically copy and paste the word on Forvo, and I download the audio file of the native speaker pronouncing the word. And I make sure the person is from Egypt because I'm learning the Egyptian dialect. So I gotta learn how it's pronounced by an Egyptian. So that's why like it tells you like who the person is from when you're picking the files. And that's basically what I do. And I'm at a point now where, you know, I think I'm gonna drop Anki. I'm like literally a month in, right? I think I'm gonna continue my reps, but I'm gonna stop making new cards with Egyptian Arabic. And I think that's just because I think I built enough scaffolding and I know enough words now to the point where like I don't actually need to learn, I don't need to use Anki to learn new words, because I'm at a point now where I'm actually learning like words through immersion. You know? Like I'm just picking up random words through immersion, bro. Like, you know, without any Anki. You know, like there was a word I learned recently, like, you know, hashtini. Hashtini means like I miss you, right? You know? Or there's words like there's other words like you know, just very simple, like, so I'm just picking things up, bro. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to learn, like I don't need an Anki anymore. You know what I mean? Like with Japanese, I had to Anki with Japanese because there's just too many words I had to know. You know what I mean? So this is where like I actually recommend you guys use Anki. I recommend you guys use Anki, you know, if you're trying to memorize like a bunch of, like, if you're trying to memorize books, bro. You know what I mean? Like, dude, like if you're trying to like, you know, learn how to read this, dude, like Zaragoto is a pretty hard series, guys. Even though it's mostly colloquial Japanese, it still uses some like, you know, literary words. If you want to learn how to read this, bro, yeah, you're gonna have to use Anki. But you know what I mean? Because like it's gonna be better if you use Anki, just because like you're gonna get to the goal faster. But what I'm doing with Egyptian Arabic is a little bit different, right? Because colloquial Egyptian Arabic is only colloquial. There's no literary words, no formal words. Like those words are in a different language, which is called MSA, which is basically it's basically an elevated version of Arabic. So the separation between dialect and written language, they're basically learning different languages, but that's a good thing. Like people see this as like, oh, Arabic must be hard because of this. It's like, no, this is actually an advantage, because now you can only focus on the dialect in the spoken language, and you learn that super fast, because there's only limited amount of vocabulary used in the spoken dialect, right? There's only so many words they'll use before you just knowing all of them. So that's what it's slice of life. That's what I'm doing. That's why I don't need to use Anki, because I'll do it eventually, bro. If I just get enough immersion, I'll just know all the words. And I'm telling you guys, like in real time, like, you know, I'm already like picking up words. And actually, I'm roughly 100 hours in. But let me actually confirm with ChatGPT right now, because it's like, so I know I watched like 3 series, guys. So there's 3 series I watched in Egyptian Arabic that equaled like 100 hours, right? You know, so I watched you know, I watched Abu al-Arusa. So that's the first show I ever watched. Abu al-Arusa. It's basically about like, you know, a family. This one's super long. So this one, guys, this series, bro, holy crap, man. This series had like 165 episodes. And each episode for me takes like 30 minutes to watch. So in total, this is like, you know, just by the show alone, this is 82 hours of immersion. Now, after that, I watched Nelly and Sherihan. So Nelly and Sherihan is basically like, you know, this blonde girl. She looks kind of American, but she speaks like Egyptian Arabic. It's kind of funny. But I think, you know, with Sherihan, I think this one's like 30 episodes. Yeah, this one was 30 episodes, but the episodes were shorter though. So I'm gonna say how many hours in this, and so I watched that show after, and now I'm in the middle and almost done with Kamel El Adad, which is basically like a Kamel El Adad is basically like a Egyptian you know, family, like it's another family one, about like girl, like basically family going through like some divorce and, you know, moving in with new kids. So, you know, but that's basically like the shows. Those are the only 3 shows I've watched, and it's been like a month, right? So in total, I have like 100 hours of immersion right now. You know what I mean? Like roughly 100 hours. But I'm gonna have ChatGPT to calculate like how many hours So okay, so let's say for Kamet Edal, I would just say that like each episode is like 40 minutes, right? Yeah, each episode basically 40 minutes. Okay, so it seems like Nelly Sherihan is 15 hours roughly. And Kamet Eldad, which is Full House, I guess in English. So roughly, I actually have 127 hours of immersion. Oh, okay, never mind. It's not 100. It's like 127 hours. So it's like a little bit more than 100. So I guess yeah. So that's where I'm at right now. And I'm at this point where like I'm actually comfortable watching shows, guys. But like I'm not understanding anything, guys. Like keep this in mind, like I'm not understanding anything what they're talking about. You know what I mean? But I am able to understand like basic stuff, like like greetings and stuff, and basically like I can pick up like words that I know every sentence, like delwati, or like nam, or like like shuft, like busi, like I know like basic words. You know what I mean? Because they just appear over and over and over again. But like like kunti, like kuntifen, like I know these words, you know what I mean? Or like hamshi, I learned like new words, like the word for, so I learned like emshi means to like say go away. Hamshi means to like I'm gonna dip, right? So hamshi is like you are actually the one dipping, and emshi is like you're telling someone else to go. So I noticed that like I'm starting to get the grammar a little bit of Egyptian Arabic. Same with like kunta, like no, enta is like you're talking to a guy, and nt is talking to a female. So when it ends with a t, that's when you know you're talking to a girl, right? Like, so I'm starting to get the grammar, guys, and it's not actually that bad. I mean, it's kind of alien to me still, because like Arabic morphology is different than like French and Japanese, but it's not as complex as Japanese. So I already have mastered like the most complex version of language for an English speaker, which is basically Japanese. The Japanese is so alien. You know what I mean? But eventually, you break through and understand everything. But with Arabic, it's still kind of alien, but it's like more manageable than, you know what I mean? Because it's not as alien as Japanese, Arabic. Even though it is really far from the European languages, Arabic is still like within the domains, like the dialects are like not that bad. So like I'm learning like basically basic grammar. Like I'm actually doing zero grammar, by the way. Like I'm doing zero grammar. I'm not like learning anything grammar. Like, cause like here's the thing, guys. Like when you just do immersion alone, like that's enough, guys. Like just brute forcing yourself to like just immerse is enough to like really like understand the language and learn the grammar completely, like I did with Japanese. Like I learned the most advanced grammar in Japanese by just reading Japanese books. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't need to learn grammar. I just need to read. Like read the language. You know what I mean? Like I don't need to read about grammar. I just need to read in Japanese. You know what I mean? Like that's the best way to learn grammar. Because I think like if you're gonna spend any conscious time with studying, it should only be vocab. Like I just did here. Like I memorized the most common 300 words in Egyptian Arabic with audio cards, right? Okay, now I know those 300 words now. Okay, we're done now. You know what I mean? So now I'm just learning this through immersion because now I have the scaffolding. Like if I didn't Anki things like Delwati, like I think I Anki'd, words like Delwati, there's like certain basic words that like if they like ukhti means like sister, I think. In the but like look, if I just didn't how do I I'm trying to find like the words I'm just open up Anki. Okay, so like okay, there's things like kursi is like chair, you know what I mean? Zahen is like to kind of like be bored. I noticed this word a lot. Talak is like divorce. Arabeya is basically car. So like if I didn't Anki these words, then it would have taken me a little bit longer to learn them through immersion, but I would have eventually learned them through immersion, right? But what I'm saying is like knowing at least the common words is very convenient. At least in the very beginning, because like in the beginning, like you don't understand anything. When I was immersing in Egyptian Arabic, bro, in the beginning, like, I just understood nothing, right? I just went in zero. I just went in with zero preparation. I just wanted to just immerse, cause like, you know. But I was able to pick up. I was still able to pick up words despite me going in zero, right? And now I know. Now that I know like the most like common words now, like what's holding me back now is not knowing more words, it's doing more immersion. So for me, like that's just all I need to do now. So I think like for me, like I'm just gonna stop using Anki for Egyptian Arabic because like I said, my domain is so specific. Like because I'm only doing Sas to Life and there's only like 3,000 words I really need to know for fluency, right? Because that's how small it is. Like people don't understand like Egyptian Arabic is like so small in vocabulary size, even compared to French and Japanese. You know what I mean? Like Japanese has more words you have to learn because depending on the politeness, it changes the word. Like for example, like for example, like morao, it could turn into like I'm trying to think about like keigo. If you speak keigo, right, it's just a little bit different. Like 私は政治と言います。Like 政治と言います。You can say 政治と申します。or 申しております。See those differences, right? There's like 政治と言います is like same thing, like more informal, and then you say 政治と申します is like more a little bit more formal, and then 政治と申しております。Like it's just like it's just different words. You know what I mean? It's like, but like keigo, like it uses a completely different word. Like for example, like to say morao, you can say tamawaru, right? It means the same thing to get, to receive, but morao is like more like informal, and tamawaru is like used in more formal situations. So in Japanese, like when something's more formal or like keigo and stuff, and depending who you're talking to, like the word changes. You know what I mean? Now Egyptian Arabic, there's none of that. Like there's only one version of like a way to say one thing, right? Now it basically uses the limited vocabulary, and depending on the nuance and tone, the meaning changes. Right? Like depending on how you say this word, it could imply something different, right? So they did this. So that's why it's easier to learn Egyptian Arabic in terms of vocab size, because it's like the vocab size is not that big anyway. So like for me, like I'm gonna be able to learn like Egyptian Arabic like actually pretty fast, because of this. And that's why I don't need to use Anki, because I'll just be able to just like learn it through osmosis, right? Just by immersing with ears, right? And I'm at a point now, guys, where like when I'm really listening to Egyptian Arabic, like I'm actually hearing a lot of the sounds. And the reason why is because I'm native level in 3 phonetic systems. I'm native level phonetically with English, French, and Japanese. So when I hear Egyptian Arabic, a lot of the foreign sounds that would come from a monolingual English speaker, all of that is decoded for me already. So I only need to decode the small amount of sounds that I don't know yet in Arabic. So that's why for me, like when I'm immersed in Arabic, like I'll be able to progress faster and understand a little bit faster and pick up words faster, because I'm trilingual, right? When you're trilingual, like the 4th language is going to be always the easiest. You know what I mean? Because the more languages you know, the better your brain gets at like acquiring languages. So like for me, like you guys might not have the same results I have, right? Just because like I'll learn a little faster than you guys, if you're like only monolingual, right? Just because, when you listen to Egyptian Arabic, like your brain is going to be like, oh, what? You know what I mean? It's not going to be able to hear it as clearly as my brain, because my brain is built from 3 other like distinct phonetic systems. You know what I mean? So when I listen to Egyptian Arabic, it's not really that alien to me. Whereas like it would be alien to someone else, So that's why for me, like, my progress would be a little bit faster. And, if it did take me like roughly 1,000 hours to learn French, it might take me a little bit less to learn Arabic. You know what I mean? Because like my brain is faster now, way faster. Because when I learned French, like I was monolingual. French was the first language I tackled. Then I tackled Japanese after, right? So like, like my brain was not developed when I was learning French, but now like linguistically, my brain's like super advanced now, because like I reached like native level in like literary Japanese, which is like one of the hardest languages to learn. We're literally like Japanese is like one of the hardest literary languages to learn, right? Like harder than like it is really hard. Right? And I just kind of described why it was, right? Because you got to know like so many words. And I also know like French too. So my brain is super advanced at acquiring new words. That's why like for me, like I'm just learning words just watching stuff on TV. You know what I mean? I'm just watching like literally like dramas all day. And I'm just getting so good. You know what I mean? I'm just learning words. You know what I mean? And I'm just getting with grammar like slowly but surely. But here's the thing, guys. Like, at first it was like I knew nothing. But after like 100 27 hours of immersion, right? I'm actually starting to kind of get used to it a little bit more. You know, like getting like the more you listen to the language, guys, the more you get used to it. You know what I mean? So for me, I roughly think that I might be able to achieve like native level comprehension with Egyptian Arabic in like 700 hours, right? And then once I hit 700 hours, then I'll be able to kind of like start outputting, right? But like that's kind of like a timeline, guys. You know what I mean? Like I'm at a stage now where like language learning is like not that hard now, because I already did the hardest language, like Japanese, right? And I learned French on top of that. So like I did most of the heavy lifting with my previous languages. Now like any language that I learn after this is gonna be like super, like it's not gonna take as much time. You know what I mean? Especially if I learn Spanish, bro. Like Spanish can be a joke, dude. Spanish can be a joke, because like literally, like French and Spanish are so similar. It's like the same stuff, right? It's like they're basically Spanish is French, right? At a certain point, it was in history. If you go back to Latin, but like you know, so like if I learn Spanish, like I'm gonna learn it like at rapid speed, right? Because my brain is like super wired from Japanese, and then I know all the vocabulary in French and English. So now when I learn Spanish, it's gonna be a joke. You know what I mean? So like for me, like language learning for me is like, you know, it requires commitment, but it's not going to be as hard as before. Like, you know, it took me 5,000 hours to get like native level in Japanese, but like, okay, look, like I don't need to like do that anymore with other languages. Because now, you know, with Egyptian Arabic, through only listening, after maybe like 700 hours, I might be able to achieve like, you know, like rapid fluency. You know what I mean? And the reason why I recommend you guys do only listening is because it's the only way to get a perfect accent. Because guys, like, you know, I know this because it's like there's been people that learned French through schooling, through reading, and they don't have a perfect accent in French. You know what I mean? Or like when they speak French, like, you know, they're still like even though they might speak well, you can still tell immediately that it's a foreigner. With me, it takes a while to realize that I'm a foreigner, right? When I speak French or Japanese, it takes a while. And the reason why it takes a while is because like sometimes I might phrase things that might not be 100% correct. Or I might make some grammatical errors, right? And that's when you find out that I'm not French. But like, it takes a longer time to realize that I'm not native, right? Whereas like, with some people that learn through reading, like you can realize immediately that they're not native, right? You know? And the reason why is because like, my pitch accent, so I would say like, with Japanese, like, my pitch accent is pretty much like on par with the native because like I acquired pitch accent as a baby. So like, that's the advantage I had, right? But like, you know, if I go to Japan, you know, you know, maybe after 2 months in Japan, I might be a native. Like, I'll be native level. You know, because if I'm speaking Japanese every day like that, you know, I'll get to a point where like, yo, I'm like basically like just speaking Japanese fluent. Like when I speak Japanese, like I don't have to think. You know, it's like the same thing with English. Like I just think what I know. You know, I'm gonna just say what I know. So, but this is because I did only listening for a long time, right? And this is why I think you guys should avoid reading. And one objection for only listening guys would be like, oh, but I'm learning language too slowly. But it's like you only learn it too slowly because your domain is not specific enough. Like I just told you guys, when you guys only immerse in slice of life dramas, right? Or if you're learning Japanese, slice of life anime, or if you're learning in French like I did, like only immerse in colloquial French casual YouTube, there's only so many words they use, guys. So you can actually 100% only learn through listening without any reading, right? Or even without Anki either. Because it's like, remember, if the same 300 words are used over and over and over and over and over again, like for 95% of speeches, right? Then, like, you're eventually going to learn on the words just through divine pattern recognition. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to hear a word, it's going to pop out to you. Like, if you guys immerse, like, you guys know this. Like when, like, haven't you heard a word when you immerse and it kind of sticks out to you? It's like, oh, this word, like, I've heard this word before, but I don't know what it means. Then you look it up and like, oh, that's what the word means. And then you learn the word like that. Like, that's exactly how you do it, guys. It's because you're eventually going to just know the words, you know what I mean? Just by hearing it more. Like, your subconscious brain is going to tell you what words to look up. You know what I mean? So this is how I do it with immersion, right? Like, when I watch like, you know, Egyptian Arabic, I don't look up like everything because it's like, obviously I wouldn't be able to watch the show anyway if I do that. But like, if there's a word that pops up to me, like that kind of sticks out to me, I kind of look it up because my subconscious brain is telling me this is important because it's noticed and it's heard this word like repeatedly. So yeah, guys. But if I do I'm trying to do the calculation. So if it's been a month since I learned Arabic, and you know I have like 127 hours in, I roughly immersed like 4 hours a day. So I basically been immersing for roughly since last month like 4 hours a day. Now for me, I would like to bump it up to 6 hours a day, and like, you know, I would want to do 8 hours a day. But obviously it's kind of like hard to like do that actively only. You know what I mean? 8 hours a day. Like that's like quarantine type stuff, right? With like zero responsibilities. But for me, I'm gonna try to stick doing like 4 hours a day. And eventually like I'll be able to just get fluent, right? But yeah, guys, so that's like my progress with 1 month in. Obviously like I'm not really understanding much, you know what I mean? Like I'm not really understanding conversations that much, I can, but when I'm watching the show, the scenes are very comprehensible. So like I'm able to kind of understand like what they're trying to say or what they're talking about generally. But like, for me, like I'm still not really understanding full sentences yet. I'm just picking out a bunch of words that I know. But eventually, like if I just keep immersing, like eventually I'll be able to understand full sentences. But like that's natural because I'm only like 127 hours in. You know what I mean? That's barely enough time. So like I just need more exposure, and eventually like the language will like click with me too. So but that's basically what it is, guys. So this is basically my journey to like basically speak like fluent Arabic. And that's basically what it is, guys. So and I think this is like the most effective way. Like think about it, guys. Like no reading. So you don't have to learn, scripts. No speaking. You do only listening, but only listening to slice of life drama. So now the lexicon and the vocab size decreased. So now the words are so repeated, right? And then you memorize like let's say the top 500 most common words through audio. Like that method is like so effective, guys. Like I want to know someone that can actually bring this up, right? You know what I mean? I want to know someone that can bring this up because it's like one of the most effective, fastest ways to learn languages without doing any reading. Like people say like listening is going to slow you down. It's like, dude, like this method, bro, with only listening is like one of the fastest ways to do it. You know what I mean? Like guys, you know what I mean? I think the reason why people think like reading is faster is because you see all the words when you read, but when you're listening, you don't hear all the words. But that's not because listening is inherently flawed. It's just because you just haven't tuned your sound into the language yet. So like you're still hearing blurry sounds. So you just need to listen more. That's the problem. Like that's what you need to do. Like you just need to listen more, dude. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to do more reading. You just need to listen more. But once your ears are fully bloomed, then listening, you'll be able to learn vocab and grammar just as fast with listening as with reading. Like when I immerse in Japanese, I can learn new words through listening and reading. With French, actually, I prefer to learn only through listening because reading is a pain for me in French because like I'm not used to reading. I only listened, right? So I actually learn and consume more language through listening in French and learn new words through listening more and faster than with reading. So like people talk about like, oh, like reading is the way. It's like, well, that's just because your ears are not able to fully hear everything. But if you train your ears to fully hear everything through enough immersion, right, through only listening, then it's going to be just as fast as reading. But you just have to get to the initial barrier. Now for me, like the barrier for that in Arabic is very low because like I said, I'm native level in like 3 phonetic systems, right? 3 phonetic languages, like phonetically. So like when I listen to Arabic, it's not alien because a lot of the sounds of Japanese and French overlap with Arabic. So it's going to be less alien than like for a monolingual speaker. But I'm just saying it's like, if you're a monolingual speaker, like you're just going to have to like kind of suck up that first couple hours, especially if you're learning like Japanese. Like Japanese is pretty alien, you know what I mean? Japanese sounds pretty alien if you're English. So like you're just going to have to kind of suck it up, to like in the beginning. You know what I mean? Especially if you're monolingual. Like, but now for me, like, I'll break through the sound stuff faster, so I'll be able to learn words faster. Right, but like you just have to break through the sound barrier, right? Because like when you're listening, what you're really just doing is like you're just not hearing it, all the time. So, yeah, guys, but so that's like my 1 month progress with Arabic, and yeah, my next video might be like 3 months. So I'll see you guys maybe in 3 months. But for the first month, it's been good though. I'm kind of surprised by how fast I'm learning just through immersion, and yeah, guys, and we'll talk soon.